Okay, for the where are we now? April book review. We are having a look at Introduction to Witchcraft by Sara Mastros. So the full title is Introduction to Witchcraft: 13 Lessons in the Practice of Magic by Sara L. Mastros. This is exactly what it claims to be: a structured, lesson-based entry into practical witchcraft. At its core, the book is built around 13 lessons, mirroring Mastros's teaching style and long-standing classroom approach. This structure is one of its strongest assets. Rather than presenting witchcraft as a loose collection of correspondences and aesthetic practices, which so many modern books fall into, Mastros treats it as a discipline. Each lesson builds on the last, moving from foundational concepts like what magic actually is into more technical areas such as sympathetic magic, sigils, planetary forces, and eventually into heavier territory like curse breaking and spirit work. What stands out immediately is the tone. Mastros does not talk down to the reader. There's a noticeable absence of fluff, no excessive romanticism, no watered down love and light framing, and no attempt to make witchcraft feel safe or purely therapeutic. Instead, she treats it as a functional art. Magic is something you do, not something you vaguely believe in. That alone sets this book apart from a large portion of contemporary beginner material. The practical emphasis is constant. Exercises are not optional side notes, they are the spine of the work. You're expected to engage, experiment, and test results. This aligns with Mastros's broader philosophy that witchcraft is learned through doing, not just reading. In that sense, the book behaves more like a course than a casual read, which will either be a strength or a barrier depending on the reader. But if a course is what you are looking for, I actually believe this book was the result of the course that Sara teaches, hence why it would feel like that. Another major strength is the scope. Despite being labeled as introduction, it doesn't shy away from complexity. You move through divination, planetary magic, trance work, dream practices, and even darker or more taboo areas like Malefica and curse breaking. The breadth is rare in beginner texts, which often avoid anything that might seem controversial. Mastros doesn't. She treats all aspects of magic as part of the same ecosystem, which gives the reader a more honest picture of what witchcraft actually entails. There's also a noticeable current of grimoire-based influence running through the material. This isn't Wicca light, and it's not purely folk magic either. It sits somewhere in a hybrid space that draws from historical sources, personal gnosis, and practical sorcery. References to planetary forces, spirits, and symbolic systems give the book a depth that goes beyond surface level practice. It quietly encourages the reader to think like a magician rather than just follow recipes. That said, this approach does come with limitations. For absolute beginners with no prior exposure to occult concepts, the pace may feel steep. While Mastros avoids condescension, she also doesn't over explain. There's an expectation that the reader will keep up, do their own thinking, and tolerate a degree of ambiguity. Some people will find that empowering, others may find it frustrating. But when you learn magic and witchcraft, you need to expect a level of homework, or you won't be learning anything. What's interesting, though, is that the book subtly reframes what an introduction actually means. It's not an introduction to ideas, it's an introduction to practice. And by the time you reach the later lessons, You're no longer being introduced to witchcraft, you're being asked to participate in it. That shift is intentional, and it's where the book really earns its value. In practical terms, this is not the kind of book you read once and shelve. It's something you work through, revisit, and build from. It has more in common with a training curriculum than a general occult title. For serious beginners or even intermediate practitioners who want to tighten their fundamentals, it's a solid, no nonsense foundation. In the current landscape of witchcraft publishing, where aesthetic and accessibility often take priority over depth, Introduction to Witchcraft cuts in the opposite direction. It assumes the reader is capable of real work and then demands it. That won't appeal to everyone, but for those who are actually looking to practice rather than just explore, it's exactly what's needed. All right, so let's have a look at some of the quotes. This is the cover. Just some of the quotes that I pulled out. There aren't a lot. It's a huge book. It's a massive tome. But the main chunk of the book is teaching and practice, and it wasn't really anything I wanted to note from there. But there were some things in the introduction that I thought were quite interesting. So to start with, here she said, to my mind, the most important lessons I took away from it, this was from Buckland's book, Ray Buckland, that is, were one, witchcraft is real and you can learn to be a witch, but it requires study and hard work. And two, witchcraft is real and it's written between the lines of nature and history and stories if you have eyes to see it. I thought that was a very valuable point. Well, both of them actually. All right. Then I pulled this bit out. As I practice it, witchcraft is, in its essence, a crossroads practice, practiced by and for and in solidarity with crossroads people. I love that. Refugees, thieves, sex workers, heretics, and the unhoused, the mentally ill, slaves, Jews, Romani people, strangers, weirdos, queers, freaks, and witches. Yep, crossroads people. Just explains it perfectly. It really does. Okay, and that was actually the two quotes I just wanted to pull out of the intro section. Just to get an idea of what you're actually, the kind of teaching, the kind of approach that's been taken, and the understanding of witchcraft itself. And I thought those spoke volumes. All right, fantastic book. Loved it. I will say, I did see one review, and it's actually one that Sarah posted on Facebook herself. And I do agree with it. There's a criticism that it's not actually witchcraft. There is witchcraft in here. I'm not going to say there isn't. It's not, it is witchcraft, but there seems to be a large emphasis on Kabbalah and Greek practices, Greek magical papyri, etc., etc. Which is, they said that it's more magic and sorcery than it would be actual witchcraft. But words change nowadays. Witchcraft has become a much broader umbrella term for so many different practices. A few decades back, or a couple of decades back, it was pagan was the umbrella term for all these things. Now it seems to have become witchcraft. So I'm not going to argue that point. It is an introduction to witchcraft, but just bear in mind that there is a strong leaning towards Greek practices and or sorcery and magic, ceremonial magic, etc., etc. Okay, so that's included. This is not purely traditional witchcraft or folklore witchcraft, folk witchcraft, or something like that. So just bear that in mind. But as I say, I think that's a generally accepted thing now anyway. So, yeah. Anyway, so Great book, fantastic, loved it, and I think you'll enjoy it as well. And I just want to also note, this is not purely for beginners. This is intermediate for intermediate people as well. It extends further and further. And what I did note in my review, also coming back to it, is that whereas other beginner books or titles will kind of stick to the foundational stuff like I generally tend to do, this does that, but then goes into Malefica, curse breaking. It goes into the use of dark mirror scrying, working with spirits, and everything else. So, you're going to get just not just the beginner stuff, but the intermediate stuff as well, extending into advanced practices. So there's also shape shifting in here, which is marvelous. So yeah, definitely pick it up. And as always, there's a link in the description to the Amazon listing if you want to go buy it there. I do appreciate if you use my link. I get a small commission, which I then go on to buy other books to review. Okay. Have a good one. Cheers. Bye bye.